Woo!
Welcome back.
Chapter 4.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
You said you really liked this chapter.
I did like this
so much about
chapter. I liked that it pointed out the distinctions between the conscious and unconscious brain.
Mm-hmm.
I liked learning that while we think our consciousness runs a lot of the show, it's actually the non-conscious brain that does the heavy lifting.
Yes. The breakdown of like how much of which part of your brain is responsible for what was definitely surprising to me the first time I read it. I like having dealt with addiction in various forms most of my life, my adult and even pre-adult life, technically, I guess. Learning more about how habits are formed, where habits live, how much habits basically determine what your life looks like. That was pretty impactful for me, I would say.
Yeah, I also am blown away by the how we perceive time and where that lives in a sense of past, present, future.
Yeah.
So, the conscious mind perceives past and future, and the unconscious, non-conscious mind can only see present. And that just opened like my, right? Like, how that portrays, or how it made me think about different mental conditions that we suffer from as humans, and what that means, and also like, trying to stay present, and that and focusing on being in the present moment really then means that you're almost shutting your conscious brain down a little bit if you want to experience the present, right? And so I'm still waking up to that concept of all the implications of the knowledge I just gained, I guess, is really what it comes down to, because I like to say that I live in the moment, and what that what that means, or what have you.
So I think one of the things that I realized as you were talking just now was because when you brought it up earlier, before we started filming, you mentioned something about anxiety and depression,
right?
And that makes a lot of sense, because obviously, if your conscious brain is where you are living most of the time, if that's where you choose to direct yourself from most of the time, then you're going to naturally default and be predisposed toward living in the past, which is going to naturally lead to regret and depression and things like that, a feeling of detachedness from your real life and all of this, or obsessing about the future, which you cannot directly genuinely control,
right?
And of course that should lead to anxiety. You've lost all of your agency, because now is the only time you have to act. So that was I was really glad that you shared that with me, because that definitely blew my mind, for sure. But the other thing that I realized while you were talking just now was that there's this sort of I want to credit Buddhism, but forgive me if I'm wrong. But there's this sort of philosophy that I had heard when I was younger, that part of living in the moment and being present, and we've heard this through some of the Deepak Chopra stuff and things like that, is letting go of judgment.
Oh, right.
Detaching from your need to analyze and criticize and all of this.
I think that's one of my favorite guided meditations that we do.
Yeah.
It's J is for judgment. Judge
there
not
it is.
Today.
There it is. But it makes a lot of sense, because if your non-conscious brain is the part that truly experiences the present and experiences everything as though it is the present, which is the other important piece of that. So it's not that you can't feed it images of the future. It's not that it can't perceive things that have happened in the past. It just doesn't perceive them as having happened in the past. everything that it has, it's all present as far as it's
Yeah.
concerned. All things exist
Now.
at once.
Yeah.
And so, in order to really live in the present, you have to let go of your conscious brain to some degree. You have to be willing to let it kind of go dormant for a second, let that 2% control factor go, enough to just, objectively observe and accept your reality as it truly is right now, without the filter of your own perceptions and labels and judgments. So that was, huge for me, because I had heard that concept, but never from the perspective of the conscious and non-conscious brains and where they operate. I never had that added layer of understanding. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it also helped me, reading this chapter also helped me, because I tend, I've talked to David about this for many years, about how I have what I term as a very quiet brain. And maybe it's because I don't necessarily choose to live from that conscious brain
Could be
standpoint, right? And so, I'm experiencing the now as much as possible. I've lived that way for a very, very long time. I don't know that I could, when I'm not living that way, I notice, and probably everyone else notices also, right? It's just how I've always been, and I've struggled with that in a sense, because my brain does tend to be more on the quiet side of things, because I'm experiencing, and
so where does the imagination and vision and direction and
it's always been hard for me. So clearly I don't use my conscious brain enough. That's what I've learned. That's what I need to work on. Most people need to learn to work with the other direction, to quiet their mind and all of this. And I need to learn to listen more, or activate more that conscious brain side of things, that analytical side. So
well, and that's one more way that we work so well together is because that's my greatest weakness, is that I'm obsessively living in the conscious brain, and one of the things that has messed with me a little bit over the last few years is, and I was kind of talking about this with you earlier, is kind of how I've sort of detached from a visceral sense of the march of temporal space. I've gotten to this place where I kind of just sort of feel like all of the past, all of the future, all of the possibilities, all of the, that whole Akashic field, whatever, as they kind of touch on in this chapter and the last one, I feel that, and so it's sometimes very hard for me to be patient with the process, because I know it already exists. We're not at the place in time where it exists yet. But that feels like a place, not a not like it doesn't exist yet. So that is difficult for me. And it becomes difficult for me to be grounded in the moment and have the agency to do the things on the daily basis to get in that direction, because it feels like it's just over there. If I just stay focused on it, I'll get there. There's a whole path between here and there, and I don't shut my captain down long enough. I don't stop barking orders long enough for anyone to steer a damn ship. So it's you taught me to start accepting the moment for what it is. You taught me to start, finding the love and appreciation along the way, and being patient and all that. And,
so since our background is in with the metaphysical, and we've done lots of exploration into the spiritual world, for our viewers that may not know, maybe it would be good to talk about the Akashic field, because maybe they haven't heard that term before.
That's a fair point. So it's also referred to as the 0 point field, and I think in the book it's introduced in the previous chapter technically. But the idea basically is that scientists discovered as they broke down, the known universe smaller and smaller and smaller, that there is a point where the physical matter that makes up what we know as physical matter is no longer physical, and it's purely energy vibrating at a certain frequency, essentially. And at its finest level, it can't even be observed anymore. It behaves only exactly as we expect it to behave when we expect it to behave a certain way, and otherwise it's like it doesn't exist and yet always exists. And essentially everything is made out of it. It is they've, as close as they've come to really defining it, is a field of infinite possibility and pure consciousness. For a lot of people that might sound like God. For other people it might sound like quantum physics. To me, I don't think the nouns really matter a whole lot, and that's just sort of the way I choose to go about my faith and my interaction with the world. But essentially everything that could happen, everything that has ever happened, every ounce of possibility exists at all points in time, and is that infinite possibility is contained essentially in every subatomic particle of the universe, with the power independently, each one, to produce all of that. And essentially it's our thoughts and our energy and the resonance of various other energies on that field that produce things out of it.
The timer is up.
So we'll just wrap it up real quick. So I had to get some chicken nuggets and kale in there, sorry. So
lunch of champions for a 7-year-old and her parents.
It's all about compromise.
That's right. This
is what I tell myself. Ask me if the kid had anything to do with the chicken nuggets.
But she does love them.
Who
They're
doesn't?
actually one of her favorites.
The chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
All right.
And they're gluten free because she needs that to be healthy.
It's a weird way to put it. All right. So
wrapping it up here.
So we talked about the 0 point field.
Akashic.
Yeah.
If you will.
I guess the only other thing I would note there.
It's gonna be so loud crunching.
If you want to know how crispy new Honey Nut Chex are, they're not new. Listen and enjoy.
But what's that satisfying noises? ASMR?
ASMR?
Yeah.
No.
Here's a little ASMR for you.
Not if you keep talking to her.
Sorry.
So please don't. Just don't.
Sorry, was that in the wrong range for your tinnitus?
Yep, that's the reason.
There's a trash can over there. Don't think he just put those on the floor. Those crumbs did not go on the floor. They went into the trash can.
Man, think what you want to think. I don't work for you. There is a trash can over there.
Because that is why do people not have trash cans in the living room? They live there. I feel like, I don't know.
Who doesn't have a trash can in the living room?
Huh?
Who doesn't have a trash can in the living room?
Put it in the comments below.
Okay. Do you or someone you know live without a trash can in the living room?
They need one.
Reach out to us today. We're not going to buy them a trash can, but we'll encourage them that way. The other thing that I liked about the Akashic field is that he described having an idea or a vision as essentially plucking one of the infinite possibilities from the Akashic realm. Like, essentially, you are opening your mind to all of the possibilities of the 0 point field all around you. And in all of that possibility and all of the things that exist in this universe, the amalgamation of what could be, one of those things crystallizes in your brain. You're able to pull that in and formulate it into something that you pour energy into, and begin actually changing the frequency of energy all around you to start physically materializing that thing.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the next chapter because
allegedly it's the how-to. Yeah.
Yes, the how-to.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks a little bit about habits and habit formation and in this chapter, but doesn't get into the weeds, just kind of says you need them.
Well, he sort of alludes to like that in the next chapter we'll learn to use the conscious brain to program the non-conscious brain to start getting the crew on board with our goals. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out. And chapter 5, hopefully we'll get to explore some of that, and whether we do or not, we'll do chapter 5.
Yeah.
We'll see you for it.
Because I have a business idea that
yes,
I'm working on.
Look forward to talking about that too.
Yeah.
More stuff to come. All right.
Seriously.
Love you guys. See ya.